Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to the Manistee Springs City Council to order. It's a regular meeting for March the 4th, 2025. We'll start with Pledge of Allegiance.
To the republic, just stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the city clerk please call the roll?
City Council members Judith Chandler. Present. John Shada. Julie Wolf. Nancy Fortune.
Present.
Michelle Weatherholt.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Natalie Johnson.
Here.
And Mayor John Graham.
Present. Thank you. Okay. So council, next item is approval of the agenda. I think you've all had a chance to review the agenda. I would look for a motion to accept and as presented and approve it.
I move approval.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Elena, I presume we're going to vote. Okay, electronic. Okay, electronic voting, please.
Motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you. The agenda is approved. The next item is public comment on non-agenda items. This is the time during the evening when anyone in the audience is welcome to speak on a non-agenda item. Do we have anyone who would like to speak? Elena, did we receive any communications? If not, we'll push on. Thank you. The next item is the consent calendar. We have 5 items this evening. The first is the approval of the February 11th, 2025 City Council special meeting minutes. The second is the approval of the regular meeting minutes from February the 18th, 2025. The third is consider reappointing Ann Nichols to the Historic Preservation Commission. Fourth is consider reappointing Anthony Maltese to the Open Space Advisory Committee. And the fifth item is final approval for the Black Canyon Open Space Master Plan. And I will mention that in the case of the 2 appointments, these are reappointments. So we do that typically by consent calendar. Whereas if we had someone we're appointing for the first time, that would be a business item. And we will be having that. I'm making that distinction because we'll be doing that later on this evening. Council, if anyone would like to remove an item and consider it separately, we can do so. Judith?
I'd like to remove F1, the February 11th meeting minutes. I was not here, so I will need to recuse myself from voting.
Okay, thank you. We'll handle that item separately then. So we will take F1 off. That's the February 11th special meeting minutes. Anything else? Would seek a motion to accept and approve. I'm sorry, Michelle, please.
I move to approve consent calendar items 2 through 5 as is.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Let's vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you. So items 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the consent calendar are approved. And now we'll discuss F1. That's the special meeting minutes from February the 11th. Councilor Chandler, you had concern. I think it's pretty straightforward if you'd like to address that.
I did not attend that meeting and so want to recuse myself from the vote. Otherwise, I have no issue with the minutes themselves. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion from council?
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve item F1.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, a second. Okay, let's vote.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. Okay, next item, presentation G1. It's proclamation number 0225, a proclamation to recognize Manitou Springs' commitment to valuing diversity, equity, and inclusion in our community. And this is going to be something that council is going to take a turn on. Each one of us will take a turn. I believe, Nancy, you have some opening remarks.
Yes. I wanted to say that proclamations are usually a way of celebrating something, and they're fairly, joyful, I would say. And usually they do not incur any risk. This one is a bit different in that it reflects our community's values, and there is potential risk by doing so in the current political environment. That said, I believe that the values of free speech and respect for one another are worthy of showing our solidarity and standing up for what we believe. So I'll read the proclamation. City of Manitou Springs Proclamation number 0225 to recognize Manitou Springs' commitment to valuing diversity, equity, and inclusion in our community.
Whereas the nation was founded upon and is guided by a set of principles, including that every person is created equal, that everyone has a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that all shall be afforded the full recognition and protection of the law.
And whereas many in our community are looking for a safe place to live and thrive during these unprecedented times, the City of Manitou Springs is proclaiming its commitment to supporting the rights of all residents and visitors. And
whereas the City of Manitou Springs recognizes the importance of equity, diversity, and freedom, and is dedicated to fostering acceptance of all its citizens and preventing discrimination in all forms, including sexual orientation, gender identity, race, socioeconomic class, ability, age, and immigration status. And
Whereas the City of Manitou Springs proudly celebrates Martin Luther King Jr. Day, Black History Month, Women's History Month, Earth Day, Juneteenth, Pride Month, and Indigenous Peoples Day, and
whereas despite national rhetoric and disinformation, the Manitou Springs community remains resilient, defiant, and unapologetically proud of its diversity. We value our public schools, access to safe and affordable medical care for all, the environment, and our international allies and democracy.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Manitou Springs City Council does hereby proclaim that every day and every month represents an opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to these principles and to actively promote the founding ideology of the United States of America. Adopted this 4th day of March 2025 in the City of Manitou Springs, El Paso County, Colorado, Mayor John G. Graham, attests City Clerk Elena Krebs.
thank you. Did any councilors want to make additional comments? Julie?
I just want to comment that I'm in full support of the proclamation, but I failed to bring my reading glasses this evening, so I wasn't able to read my part. So I appreciate Michelle filling in for me.
Okay, thank you. Great. Okay, next item, under business, formal action on parking for Soda Springs Park events. And council, this was something you'll recall several weeks ago, we discussed that or discussed the subject in a work session, and we did give direction to city staff. I think we do want to formalize it as a policy, and also we had several citizens said they would like to speak to the item, so that's best handled in a regular session when we have everybody here and the recording on. So Jillian, you have the floor.
Good evening, Jillian Rossi, Parks and Recreation Director for the City of Manitou Springs. I just have a few additional notes to share, mainly updates from Roy. He did follow through with connecting with additional parking options for the Soda Springs Park area if we do end up needing extra or supplemental parking during special events while the behind Budford Pavilion is not available for parking going forward. So he did look into the parking lot that's owned by the Mate Factor across Park Avenue from Soda Springs Park. They would support donating some parking spots during special events. They are in the process of fixing up their lot. So once their lot is fixed, that could be an option for hosting parking. Roy also reached out to the Cliff House to check on the Wheeler House driveway or the drive, which could fit 7 to 8 cars. They're checking on liability issues, and if there aren't any issues with liability, they would support the use of that area for parking. And then finally, the Manitou Springs Post Office, they would consider supporting parking on Saturdays. That's the one day of the week they don't receive deliveries. So they would be willing to offer their lot on those days. We also did want to mention that less parking behind the pavilion produces less compaction on our trees' roots that we have planted behind the Budford Pavilion. So this could be a beneficial item for our trees as well. So just wanted to share those few thoughts.
Great, thank you. And council, this is kind of an update. This might be an opportunity if you have questions for Jillian. If not, we can bring her back, but we're going to take some public comment too. So any questions for Jillian? Jillian, thank you. We may ask you to come back, but okay. So I know there was, in the past, we've had several people express an interest in speaking to this. So this would be a good time to do it. Sally, I think you were one of the people. So would you like to start off? Okay, so just like during public comment time, everyone will have 3 minutes. When you start, please give us your name and address.
My name is Sally Fitzgerald. I live at 143 Deer Path Avenue in Manitou Springs. I want to thank the city, the staff here for considering those trees in the parking. I fight for every tree in town, but when the cars are parked on top of them, roots, you're compacting them. The roots cannot absorb the water or their nutrients, and those trees are older than most of us. So I just want to thank you all, whoever was involved, in considering those trees and moving the parking out of that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? I believe the chamber had some concerns or want to make comment.
Hello, Jenna Gallus, Visit Manitou Springs, also a resident, 106 Spencer Avenue. I just want to thank the city staff and the council for working
Could you
together.
get a little bit closer to the
Oh.
microphone, or maybe about 3 inches or so?
Can you hear me? Just want to thank you all for working on this agreement and kind of provide a little update on how things went at the Gumbo Cook-Off over this past weekend as we did abide by this soon-to-be approved, hopefully, agreement with all of you. Thank you for allowing the parking attendants to be there and present because we did have less issues with the vehicles that were parking in those spaces, which was a big concern for ours, is that those spaces wouldn't be available as regular visitors were very much likely to come and use them as their own personal parking spot. So thank you for that. The only thing I would like to comment on this agreement is that it does indicate a truck or delivery vehicle. Not always will it be indicated as such if these artists are coming in. Sometimes it's a van, sometimes it's just a personal vehicle. So I just like to make that notation in this agreement that it wouldn't always be something that was loud and proud delivery truck or trailer. So, but again, thank you all for your work on this and for allowing some concessions with parking to be waived for those waived fees for parking at Park Avenue and the adjacent areas as well. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone else who'd like to speak to this? Okay, we'll move on then. Council, if you have questions, certainly Jillian's here. We could ask her for clarification on anything you're curious about. If not, we did discuss this in a work session, and I would then look for a motion. Natalie?
I'm just wondering if we should alter the language under item 1 where it says parking up to 1 delivery truck or equipment trailer. Do we want to adjust that, or do we assume that that will be understood?
I suppose this is probably a good time to clarify things before we find ourselves second guessing, a year or two from now. Judith?
Yeah, I have no problem adding that clarifying language to add van. I also do want to have some language that it excludes things such as tour buses. I just want to make sure that if we're going to include things that can park there, I want to make sure that people are really clear about what cannot park there. So that's my only comment. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor. Okay, John?
I would just suggest we just strike section 6 as well, review and renewal, because it seems like to me, this just should be our ongoing policy for use of that area. I just don't understand what the date of the restriction is in there.
Okay, thank you. Other comments? Okay, so really we've got suggestion for 2 modifications. see, does everybody have a chance to get the agreement up in front of you? So I guess Judith, you really want to speak to paragraph 1, the parking limit?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, just to segue into what Mayor Pro Tem was talking about. In section 1, terms and conditions, number 1, parking limit, it currently reads the event organizer is permitted to use the designated dirt area at Soda Springs Park for parking up to 1 delivery truck or equipment trailer. From the public comment, perhaps that can read 1 delivery truck, comma, equipment trailer or van. Would that satisfy you, Jenna? I'm sorry, can you? Delivery vehicle? Okay, so I amend that to parking up to 1 delivery vehicle.
Just, okay, so Judith, then just 1 delivery vehicle, period.
Period.
And we strike or equipment trailer. 1 delivery vehicle.
Does that satisfy your?
So we'd have that. Okay. Let's handle these as separate items if we could. So Judith, would you like to make a motion to that effect?
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we amend under terms and conditions, number 1, parking limit to read, the event organizer is permitted to use the designated dirt area at Soda Springs Park for parking up to 1 delivery vehicle, period.
Thank you. So do we have this second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on this point? Okay. Let's go ahead and vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's go to paragraph 6 then. And John, you were the proponent of just, you want to strike the whole thing, is that? Well, John, you turn your, yeah.
I'm sorry. I'd like to have 4 and item 6 deleted. I just don't see why we just don't need to have this just as an ongoing policy. So I don't see why we need to have the language there of the duration of the agreement and review and renewal. I would propose that we just strike those sections and renumber section 5 to be section 4.
It's a motion? Is that a
Yes,
motion?
I move. Yes, I move that as a
That's a
motion.
motion.
Thank you.
Is there a second? Okay, so let's open up this discussion. Now, John, this is as I understand it, this is an agreement with different individuals, with each organizer who would be using Soda Springs. So it seems to me that in some cases, we wouldn't need to redo the agreement. I think that's the case you're thinking of. But there are might be other organizers where we'd want to evaluate their performance, and we might have second thoughts about just giving them carte blanche and renewing the agreement without, renegotiating some points. If they're too noisy, if they're in violation of some of our other items, I think we would want to be able to curtail their participation if they fall outside some of our other guidelines.
Well, then I guess I would propose that if that's what we want to do, is that we just put the language up there. This is agreement is made and entered on between the city of Manitou Springs and event organizer for the year of something, or, if we want to put sort of a limitation on that. And then that way, it just seems like to me, this language of 2026 and 2025 and 2026 just limits reusing of the document in future years. I just would rather have just sort of some kind of a generic thing that we can use, as opposed to having to revisit this thing all the time. That was my reason.
Okay, thank you. Julie?
I don't know if this is repetitive, but I was going to say that this is a fill in the blank form, and this reflects the city's perspective on parking. And the city always has the right, I believe, to determine that we don't want certain events, or that we want to modify this agreement if we find that there are certain event organizers that fail to honor it. And so we may exclude them from coming back or give them a different a different offer. But this is just a fill in the blank form. So I don't see why it should sunset at the end of the year, because that's just one more thing for us to do in a year. And there's a good chance we won't get around to it. And that's exactly why I don't know if that's supposed to be, I mean, the people who support this, no one said, I wanted to die at the end of the year. And if you all are too busy to remember, there's so many ordinances and contracts and everything that we deal with, and we'll have a brand new council then as well. They're not going to be able to remember this stuff. So I hate for it to just sort of sunset or expire, or that we have to look at a whole new form, and maybe there is no form for a while. And then we have parking vehicles in the park again, which again create safety hazards and all the reasons we voted in favor of this. So I agree with Mr. Shada. I don't want to have paragraphs 4 and 6 in here.
Okay, thank you. Other council members? Okay, so John, would you restate your motion again?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I believe that we just need to change the wording up on the top where it says this agreement is made and entered into by and between the city of Manitou Springs, fill in the blank, event organizer, and then maybe some blank that says for, certain duration or year or event or something like that. And then we strike section 4. We renumber section 5 to be 4, and we strike number 6.
Okay, let's, I guess I'd feel a little better if we had a little more specific wording up at the top there after fill in the blank event organizer. I think you were a little ambiguous, John.
Julie, can you help?
Yes, I was just going to propose a couple things. One is the agreement is made and entered into by and between the city of Manitou Springs, hereinafter city, in quotes, and blank event organizer regarding blank, and then open paren, nature or date of event. And that way the blank, the fill in the blank could be for the whole summer if you want, for little winds that comes, or if it's just a one-time event. And if it makes you feel better, Mayor, I think certainly we could add a paragraph that says that the city reserves the right to revoke this in the future for non-compliance or something like that, similar to
Can I jump in for a second?
Oh, yes, please do.
Yeah, no worries. I think maybe you could just say this agreement may be terminated by either party upon written notice. And then the city can just terminate it if it wants to at some point in the future. It's covered and the other party could too. So.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. And I should have mentioned Jeff's not feeling well, so he's obviously joined us by Zoom.
Scared.
Yeah, sorry. I just didn't want to interrupt. It was a good conversation, but that might just help.
Okay, no, that's good. That's what we have you for.
So I make that a part of my motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Jeff, would you just restate that?
I'd have just a sentence in there. We could put it at maybe the very end, actually. Could say this agreement may be terminated by either party in writing at their will.
Okay, great. Thank you. Elena, were you able to capture that? Okay, good. Thank you, Judith.
I just, would it be more appropriate to add that to number 5, enforcement and penalties? Just add that as a sentence there. I know that might be a separate motion, but that seems more appropriate that would go there, because it does address penalties for non-compliance.
Do you want
Yeah,
to
that's fine.
do you want to suggest that as a friendly amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll just add that to number 5.
Okay. All right. So
Now that I've said that, I apologize, everybody. Oh, here I am interrupting. I'm sorry. I just realized what I said is completely redundant of what's already written in paragraph 5. If it makes it any clearer for people, I don't mind adding it, but it already says that in different language. And I had forgotten that.
okay.
Repeated violations.
Mhm.
I think we're okay.
Repeat violations may lead to the event organizer being barred from using the dirt area in the future. Although that's very specific, because it may also bar them from being able to use free parking spots along Park Avenue. So I think I do, I appreciate the language actually that city attorney recommended.
All righty.
Yeah, it's more broad.
Okay. So John, I'm going to ask you to restate the motion because we've made,
Okay, so
and there have been friendly amendments.
so we're not going to tinker around with the beginning part, right? Oh, wait, Julie. Julie has some words that happened in the beginning. This agreement is made and entered into by and between the city of Manitou Springs, blank, event organizer name, event organizer, and then you had some words. Okay, Julie wants and in there. Thank you. And then you had some other words.
If you turn your mic on, please.
Regarding blank, open paren, specify event, close paren.
Okay,
Oh.
and then we're going to strike number 4, renumber number 5, add the language the city attorney is suggesting to the end of number 5, and strike number 6.
Second, I second that.
Okay, thank you. Elena, were you able to follow that? Okay, great. Well, once again, we have a simple thing to deal with.
I know.
Okay. Any further discussion from council? Okay, let's go ahead and vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, next item H2, consider appointing Patsy Sitzman to the Urban Renewal Authority Board. We do have Patsy here, so I guess Patsy, we'd like to give you an opportunity you could come up and tell us about yourself and what you might want to do with the URA board.
My name is Patsy Sitzman. I live at 125 Beckers. About myself, let's see. I was born in an elevator at Ohio State. No, you don't want me to go back that far. No, I'm interested in the URA for the same reasons that I was interested in contributing to every other team I've been on here. I love Manitou the same way that you do. And it's my neighborhood in the district, the URA district. I think I can do something and help. That's it. It's just as simple as that. Questions, comments? You want me to run away?
Council, any questions for Patsy?
Patsy, thank you very much for applying, and I hope you are approved shortly. Thank you.
Okay, so
Thank you.
If you had a comment?
And I appreciate all what you do.
Thank you, Mayor. First, thank you for all of your past service. And I just want to point out in the packet, your stellar resume and the amazing skill set that I think that you will bring to the URA board. Thank you for applying.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from council? If not, I would seek a motion.
I move approval of Patsy Sitzman for a position on the URA board.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Let's vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Patsy. Nancy, please.
Congratulations, Patsy. Since the authority to appoint the members lies solely with the mayor, I'd like to address the fact that he has decided not to appoint me. To my knowledge, this is the first time a candidate that is eligible, qualified, desires to serve, and was formally nominated in writing by the URA board will not be appointed. Not only is there precedent for council members to serve on the URA board, Mark Snyder and Corrine Toll, but provisions in ordinance 2.09.040 do not apply to the URA board, which falls under state statute. While I question the mayor's rationale and am disappointed by his decision, I willingly and enthusiastically will continue my role as council liaison to the URA board.
Thank you. Very good. Let's go on to H3. Consider appointing Carl Stang to the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments Citizens Advisory Committee. And thanks, Carl is not here. I think this is fairly straightforward. Manitou Springs has 2 representatives on the Citizens Advisory Committee. And for our size, that's kind of a boon. Most of the small communities have 1. I think the real small entities like ROM and so forth don't have any. So we do want to maintain the representation of two individuals. Currently, Alan Delwich and Barb Winter serve. Alan has expressed an interest in stepping down. He has other responsibilities. So Carl said he would be willing to take the position. It meets once a month. So anyway, if council has any questions, I guess I could try and field those questions. If not, I would seek a motion to approve.
Mr. Mayor, I would like us to appoint Carl Stang to the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments Citizens Advisory Committee.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second? Seconded by Councilor Wolf. Any further consideration or discussion? If not, let's vote.
And the motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you. So Carl is appointed to the Citizens Advisory Committee. This next item, consideration of and potential discussion to engage in an employment consultant to provide professional services related to the city's employment environment. Before we get started on this one, I want to explain that this is mostly an update to council. Council previously asked me to explore the feasibility of seeking management training or consulting to review various city practices. The city attorney provided us with 4 contacts for firms that he was familiar with that might be able to provide this service. I've reached out to all 4, received comments back from several, and I can provide you some basic information about services, the possible scope of work and fees. This is largely custom work, so all these firms, they've essentially charged by the hour. So getting a package price is not necessarily easy, but I think we can have a little bit of basic discussion here. Based on council's previous remarks, I think the price tags may drive a lot of our thinking on this, although we could certainly make a more detailed review of services if council wishes. Council also expressed an interest in getting something started in the very near future, such as in 30 days. So I don't think it makes sense to wait on this. We don't have to make a decision. This is basically informational. And I guess I would be seeking additional direction from council regarding the scope of work, costs, and a possible strategy. I think it's always appropriate for council to be concerned with staff efficiency and morale. We want to be an effective city. We want to provide good services for our residents and our visitors. We like to have a culture of success, the can-do attitude, and that's constantly something that has to be nurtured and taken care of. So the information I'm getting tonight here for you is basic information, and I'd like a little bit of feedback. With that, let's see, in the council packet, you have, there are four firms. Sorry, let me find it here. John, did you have a question?
Yeah. You know, the one, and initially to me, the one that I gravitated toward was the $3,000 price for Civic Canopy. Seems like to me that just gives us an initial 360 evaluation. And I guess I noticed that maybe nobody had met with them. Do we have any more information about them?
Yeah, if you can, let me go over each one of these. It
Okay.
took me a bit here to get the matrix up. So the first firm at the top there, Breakthroughs Incorporated, Walt Kowalski. They do a variety of services, have quite an extensive resume. They do 360 evaluations, 2-day group sessions, where they would typically come in and have a session that would involve up to maybe a dozen people. That would be, for instance, department heads, and they will do custom programs. All these firms will do a custom program, and it charges by the hour. So getting a set price from them is really not feasible. The 2-day group session would be about $3,400 plus a charge of $7,250 per person. That's a testing charge. Walt charges $350 an hour for his services. So that's one. I would say Walt, he did come down last week. He met in person with the Mayor Pro Tem and myself. He was pretty well prepared. He'd gone to our website and he said he'd studied it for about 4 hours, and he had some questions that indicated that that was consistent with what that he had actually done the 4 hours. So he had he was able to ask some questions too about the city. Civic Canopy, I went to the guy's website. This is Bill Fulton. I got an automated message back from him, but I've never had a phone call or even an email from him other than just the automated response. His price is $3,000 for a 360 evaluation. You can see in the brief what that includes. An additional coaching sessions by him would be $250 an hour, and those are typically done on Zoom. He charges extra if he shows up in person. His typical projects range from $10,000 to $40,000, depending on what's desired. And that would be typically for a staff development program. That would be customized. So if we wanted to deal with him, we'd have to sit down and kind of negotiate what we wanted. The third firm there, Moxie Solutions, Carrie Mitchell. It appears to be a one-person operation. I had tried to contact her twice through the website, and I haven't got anything back from her. And I don't believe there was a phone number there to contact. Taloma Partners, I did talk to Maren Stewart. And again, she explained that the difficulty in giving us a price is a function of what we really want. She said that they did a staff development program in one of the Denver area municipalities. It ran $30,000. It took about 3 months. She said normally something like should take about 2 months, and they would then they contract for additional follow-on coaching for whoever whoever's identified. Could be a city administrator or department head, something like that. And typically they would do that on every other week basis. So you can see that doesn't that's not cheap either. I did talk to her for about 15 or 20 minutes. So of the 4 firms, I really only had personal interaction with 2 of them. So we've got that. I suppose we could, we could drill down and ask them for more information. I believe we've also used another coach that I didn't know about. I think someone based in Colorado Springs. So that might be another consideration. So council, I'm just kind of looking for a little direction. We could spend a lot of time trying to whittle this down, but some course directives would be helpful. Michelle?
So $3,400 for Breakthrough for a 2-day group session, would that be the city administrator and department heads? And then if we wanted to do the tests for each additional person, it'd be $72.50?
My understanding, and Natalie was there also, someone asked her to weigh in on this, it would be $72.50 for each person. So for instance, if we did 6 people, it'd be 6 times $72.50 plus the $3,400. So was that your understanding, Natalie?
Yeah, I think it's a little difficult. I think that the 360 and the 2-day group session, I understood, is almost 2 separate things. Like the 2-day session is the culture piece, and then the 360, that's how I understood it. But so it's a little, I think, confusing to see.
I'm sorry,
broken down this way.
that's correct. Yeah. 3,400 is for the group session.
And I would
Right.
say that, I mean, based on my discussion with Walt, I thought he could certainly do the 360 in terms of the culture piece. I'm not quite sure he'd be a fit for Manitou, but I think he could certainly do the first part. And then we could determine from there if we wanted to work with him further, if we went that direction.
Yes, I hope I didn't confuse the situation. I think Natalie is correct. The $3,400 is that 2-day group session. And I guess Walt's sounded like the first day was mostly people would talk about their personality types. Or Natalie, do you remember that? But kind of it was a little
Yeah, I
vague.
think certainly can do it. I think for me, if we're going to really invest in a culture piece, one, I think the city administrator should be part of that conversation. And I also think that we really are looking at a systemic change, and that involves more than just 2 days and certainly more than just certain people, right? And so I just don't quite know if that's what we're looking for. I think there just is more work that has to be done on that piece for today.
I think that's probably a good summary of what our situation. Judith and then Nancy.
Thank you, Mayor. So one of the things that I'm still a little confused about is does council, do we have a consensus on what we want the work product to be? What I want to understand isn't staff's personality types and how they get along or how they don't get along. I'm more concerned with regards to the scope or depth of any issues relating to the city employment environment that are affecting retention and the hiring of new people. And so to me, while I looked at these options, I'm still having trouble wrapping my head around exactly like a real purpose statement of what it is we want. Because if we don't have that, I certainly don't feel good about shelling out, you know, tens of thousands of dollars to get, you know, personality evaluations. So that's one thing I really want to get a clear understanding, Mayor, from you and the rest of council, is what exactly is the work product that we want, and so that we can make knowledgeable and informed decisions about the current employment environment and how we can improve it.
Okay, thank you. Those are good comments. Nancy, please.
Yeah, given the information that we have, I'm leaning also toward the Civic Canopy, 3,360. My goal in all of this is to get a quick 360 done and let that guide us toward the more fleshed out contract for the culture changes. So, but I think it's pretty important that we do something sooner rather than later. So that's my thoughts on it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Julie, please.
Well, the way this came up recently in executive session was what Judith just mentioned, the retention assessment desire to find out what's going on. Are we having a retention issue that needs to be addressed, or is it normal? You know, to have some interviewing or investigating done as to why we've lost some pretty important department heads and other people in the city. So to me, that's a different thing from a 360, which we did talk about maybe a year ago, or seems like maybe 6 months ago, but not recently. So I'm a little surprised to see all this 360 stuff, because I thought that the recommendations from Jeff would be pertaining to our discussion about wanting to have some interviews and investigation done to establish why we seem to have so much retention difficulties here. So if we are going to have a 360, I'm not sure now is the best time to consider it, because we have so much in flux. The people being evaluated, you know, haven't been here very long, may not be here much longer. I just don't see this as an appropriate time. I mean, it's only $3,000, and given our budget, it's, you know, I hate to, you know, spend too much time on it, but I'm more interested in having an investigation or an assessment of the retention issue.
All right, thank you. And we did talk about 360. We talked about a variety of things. Okay, that's kind of where we left it. Council asked me to check these things out. There's a variety of things we could probably do. We do a lot of expensive things too. Judith?
Thank you, Mayor, so much. Point of a clarification. I guess when I see these 4 options, I don't really understand what we're going to get from a 360, but as I look at these rough estimates and what tool they might use, my question is, what work product are we going to get? What's the deliverable that we get going with, you know, plan A, B, C, or D? Are we going to get, you know, personality profiles, or, you know, so because I would like to have the ability to sift through what the work product would be, ask ourselves, is this what we are wanting? is this worth the money we're spending? Or is it something else we want and we're not going to be satisfied with an overview of some consultant coming in and telling us about our overall culture? I think we have a specific issue. And I think our issue currently is that we have lost several key employees, and we just want to find out. And I don't know exactly, you know, what tools are at our disposal without utilizing our current staff to find out, you know, do we have a retention problem? What is the retention problem? And how can we help create an environment for future retention? So I guess I'm reluctant to sign on to any of these until we have a clearer understanding of what we would get for our money. Thank you.
Okay, Natalie?
So, you know, I haven't mentioned Studer yet, but, you know, about 6 months ago, the city administrator requested that we invest in some, the culture of our community and our city. And so I just want to, again, sort of reiterate, if we are looking at like a 1-year sort of systemic program, that, you know, that we include the city administrator in that. But I also know that Judith has a very specific request in what she's looking for. And I'm just wondering if maybe I could step aside and you could work with her on selecting someone to conduct this 360 as opposed to myself, since she has a really specific desire for the outcome of that.
Okay, well, and thank you, Natalie. Kind of going back to what Judith was saying is, what do we get for our money? Well, that's sort of a chicken and the egg, because, and I think it both in discussing this with Walt and with Maren, is what do you want? And it's not like they'll maybe give us a ballpark price. And I mean, Maren was trying to be helpful by saying they did something like, I think what we had envisioned. And again, I mean, you would not go to a restaurant and order the food off the menu with a menu that is this vague. I mean, so we need to kind of drill down. So part of the question, I think at one point when council was talking about it, we were looking at $3,000. $3,000 might get us well, that's ballpark for something like a 360 evaluation. It doesn't really probably do a whole lot to address some of the concerns we have, like, you know, staff retention. On the other hand, I guess in looking at all this, you know, spending in the order of $10,000 to $40,000 doesn't guarantee it either. So I'm not, I just want to counsel, I'm not married to any of these ideas. I don't know if they're really going to solve our problem, but this is what I was asked to do. But I can appreciate this is the quandary we're all in. What's the right solution? And part of it's a cultural solution, so that affects, you know, the city, which maybe 80 employees, something like that. Not necessarily an easy question. Natalie brought up the idea of Studer. That's something District 14 is doing. It might be appropriate if council's interested to have her or someone speak to a cultural sort of a situation. It may be that we want to go back and rethink this and just take this as information for tonight. Yeah, Judith?
Thank you, Mayor. You've been very gracious in entertaining my many comments. Just a segue on what Mayor Pro Tem mentioned. It's not really that I personally have, you know, my own agenda here. It's that I'm searching for consensus from council on what information is it that we want. Because when we're hiring consultants, what I want from them is the information to make knowledgeable and informed policy. That's our job. And so if any of these consultants or these plans are going to give us the tools we need and some data that we can actually reflect upon to make really significant proactive change, then I'm not opposed to that. I guess what I'm asking for is, what specifically are we wanting? And I'm And I do want that specific information. I think it's pretty critical in this process. And I think there's two different things now on the table. There's, do we want to do an overall Studer type of a cultural assessment, perhaps down the road? But in the short term, that is what I would like to see, is information regarding specifics about our employment and retention and people leaving us, and how we can do a whole lot better in attracting and retaining really top employees.
Well, if I may picking up on that idea, I don't know, council, maybe what we need to do is to have HR come in and give us a little bit of a background on our employment situation. We've, over the last several years, we've increased our compensation packages and our benefits, and those are important factors, but finding people and keeping them it's been a challenge. And speaking to people of other area governments in the area, they've had some challenges too. I don't think this is just unique to us. There are certainly some common threads that I hear other elected officials, complaining about. What would council think about asking HR to give us kind of to the extent that's possible, some sort of course feedback?
Could we have Jeff Parker weigh in on that?
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Jeff, can you
Can you
speak to
repeat
that?
that again, Mayor? I'm sorry, I was looking at something for our executive session. I apologize.
Judith, do you want to restate what you're?
Jeff, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
It's Judith. So what I specifically, what we were specifically asking ourselves is, what kind of information do we want to make knowledgeable and informed policy decisions? Mayor mentioned perhaps having and I would imagine executive session with HR, and I was wanting your input on that, because I know that there's things like confidentiality issues, et cetera, to consider.
Yeah, I mean, it depends upon exactly what you want to talk about with HR. Like just general personnel policy matters, those aren't really allowed to be discussed in executive session. You could discuss specific employee issues in executive session, provided the employee is okay with it. But for the general HR stuff, it's a little more difficult. There's really no grounds for that under your charter and the open meeting law. So I guess the question could be, could you have a discussion on a general topic like that in public, or is it going to involve specific employees? If it involves specific employees, we could then do it for a personnel matter. You just have to give those employees notice. Did I complicate the issue?
Yes, you did, but that's what attorneys do.
Yes, and thank you.
I try to provide you with solutions, not more problems. I apologize.
Okay, thank you. Michelle and then Julie.
A few things. Since I've been on city council, yes, we have had some department heads leave us, only to go on to other cities where they have been paid more money, or they have left us to be closer to their extended family. As far as a 360 for our city administrator, I don't think she needs one at this time. We just had a workshop a week ago Saturday, and she gave us a 2-page sheet on everything that we have accomplished as a city since 2020. And I would be more to support something in regards to the culture. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Julie?
My question for Jeff Parker is, if we were to have an executive session with HR to question about specific employees who have left us, who are gone, and what she knows, what communications we've been, it's been suggested to city council that maybe HR doesn't feel very approachable to the city staff because they know darn well that HR reports to Denise at the top. And so there are sometimes issues about whether employees in a small town can really trust their HR person. So if we were to interview our HR director and ask about some of these other people who have left, not all of whom, I mean, maybe the people, she would tell us the same thing, extended family, better pay. I would suggest that there are some people who have left for other reasons besides those two, and I want to find out what it is. So would we have to notify the former employees that we're going to be asking HR about them?
Nope, because the executive session grounds doesn't apply to discussions about former employees. So there wouldn't be an executive session ground to have that conversation. It's, it's just how the open meetings law works and how your charter reads. I'm trying to think about, I mean, there really isn't a basis for that. I'm wondering, I'm just thinking here, the open meetings law and your charter do allow for executive sessions around matters required to be kept confidential under state law and federal law. And so there is a privacy interest that employees have in various matters, and that's a potential grounds for an executive session, which would be to discuss employee personnel matters regarding it would probably be like a state or federal privacy interest of employees. I'm pushing it though. I don't like that. I don't think that's a great grounds. I have to do a little more research. I mean, that's one of the problems is that the open meetings law specifically does not allow you to have executive sessions to discuss non-employees or basically non-employee personnel matters.
Okay, and I certainly don't need you, or I'm not personally asking you to do any additional research. I just wanted to know if that was one way to skin the cat, if you will.
Yeah, no, it would be a good one. It would make sense. It's just not quite how the law works, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Welcome.
Judith?
Thank you, Mayor. I think just to comment on Councilor Weatherholt's assumption of why people are leaving, I think it's dangerous to assume that we know why people are leaving. We just increased benefits and we have competitive salary. We instituted a 4% across the board cost of living increase. And I am actually less concerned about the culture at this point as I am trying to figure out if there are repetitive issues that are recurring that we need to be aware of as we improve our services here in the town. And so I don't know how to go about that, but I think that this is a small town of 4,800 people. We hear things, people say things. And so I have a big question mark about is City Council doing enough to make sure that our city employees feel like they're working in a safe environment where they are encouraged to work to their highest full potential and they have potential for growth. And I still have questions and concerns about that.
Thank you. Michelle?
I'll correct my statement. I'm not assuming anything, but Alex left us for Colorado Springs. Dole left for more money. Our Parks and Rec, he left to be closer to his extended family, and Hannah left for medical reasons. Thank you.
Understood.
A few of the people who have left, and that's why I would like more information. I'm sure that everyone hasn't left for the same reason, but it does seem a bit. Plus, we know some of the people who have left have actually contacted me, contacted Judith, have contacted some of us individually, and we've also, so we're aware of some problems, and the question is, we don't know how radical they are, and we're wondering whether there can be some inquiry to see if there's something we could do better.
Thank
I
you,
have a
Julie.
problem with those individuals contacting you individually. We are a city council, meaning there are 7 of us. If they have an issue with our city administrator or with how they were managed, they would be sending us all an email, not contacting you individually. Thank you. Unless you want to share those emails with the rest of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, council, I think we're getting farther and farther apart. And this was really just the
May I
information.
respond to that, please?
Okay, go ahead, Jude.
First of all, Counselor Weatherhill, you have named people personally by name and stated in an open meeting the reasons that they left, and they are not here. Nor do I know that they've given you permission to give that information in a public forum. Second of all, if I get any correspondence at all that I feel that the city attorney, the city administrator, council needs to have, that information is immediately shared with the appropriate people. We as a council have received information. We as a council. So what, and not just on one occurrence. This is my 6th year on council. I'm starting my 6th year. We've had a number of correspondences that are saying similar or the same things. And I'm just saying, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but our job is to protect the safety and welfare and health of our community. And if we don't get a grasp around, maybe people are leaving for more money. If everyone's leaving for more money, I sure want to know about that, because we need to look at our compensation package. If they're leaving because they got better benefits, we need to look at our benefits package. So whatever information we get, I want it to be confidential, but I want it to be substantial so that we can go, oh, I see a trend here. I see a pattern. This is something that we can substantially do, so we can tell the people that elected us to office that we are taking this seriously.
Thank you. Michelle?
I have a question for the city attorney. Jeff, can we talk to the department heads?
You mean we as in the city council as a whole?
Yes.
I mean, if you can have a department head come in and discuss issues with you. I mean, that's permissible. The only issue though is that, I guess some department heads report directly to you and some report to the city administrator, but you ultimately supervise the city. So it would be, not you as an individual talking to them, but if you have questions for them, you could do that.
So have a meeting with all the department heads, all of us together in one room.
It would be an open meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, council, I don't see us getting any farther down the road. I guess what I asked was direction on what you told me you were interested in, the 360 valuations and then an ongoing program. And that really doesn't seem to be what we've gotten interested here since you made that request. So I guess I'd like to just table this for tonight. It may be that city attorney would have a little direction as to what we might be able to do, and is, relative to questions about employment retention and that kind of thing. And maybe that would provide a little more guidance. If anybody's got another idea, it's time to hear it. Jeff, do you want to comment?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that I always sort of discourage, a city council or a board of trustees and as a group meeting with employees and trying to conduct their own investigation or get their own answers. That's why it's usually better to have somebody who's professional meeting with them and taking care of it, and then providing you a report. And it's with anything, if there's been wrongdoing, we do it that way. If there's just, a need for an evaluation, we do it that way. I generally don't think you get great answers coming into an open meeting with an entire city council and asking department heads questions, even though I understand the reason for that question. So, I mean, I guess ultimately it sounds like you're looking for two different things. You're looking for a shorter evaluation and Judith, I think you described it well. And I think Councilmember Wolf did too, which is we need a short assessment as to maybe what the retention issues are, and if there really are issues that can be fixed, or just because people are leaving for better pay or something. And there's more of a longer term project, which is addressing any issues that are found and providing coaching or culture change type stuff if necessary. So it looks to me like you may be looking for somebody to do, I agree. I don't think you're going to want to have personality evaluations and personality trait thing. You want to have a bit more of a focused investigate or at least evaluation. So I think that you could probably talk to some of these people, at least the ones who returned your calls. I'm sort of surprised to hear some of the ones I recommended didn't get back to you, but say this is exactly what we're looking for. We want discussion with these individuals. We want to have information about why employees are leaving, and they could work with Kelly because she has a lot of information, I'm sure. And then get us a report. And this is the work product that we want. We don't want personality evaluations. We want to know. We want to focus on retention. And then you could look at another contract for a longer period of time to maybe implement changes if necessary, do that kind of culture stuff. At least that's my take. And I can find other names for you too. I didn't provide names of like employment investigators. Like I have lots of those people and they do like the investigations, and they could probably do a similar work. It wouldn't be more of like a wrongdoing investigation. There'd be more getting information. I tried to give names of consultants that kind of do evaluations and training. So that's why you had these people.
Right. No, I appreciate that. And yes, one of of course, the problem that I had and the people I did talk to said, well, and they said, what do you really want? And I told them what I thought my best guess was, which was pretty broad and relatively vague. So they were at a disadvantage. And again, they just kind of told us a little bit about what they'd done in the past and what it cost. So, and that's what I brought back to you tonight. I know that probably isn't terribly good direction.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you went back to the individual with more specificity and said, after talking to city council, it looks to we would like interviews conducted of management and maybe some employees who left in HR. We'd like you to look at this specific issue of employee retention and provide us with information and a report regarding why we've had turnover and what you think the issues are or are not, and nothing else. And we need that in 30 to 60 days, something like that, and then get a proposal for that exact project, and then you can worry about other things as a longer term. And that, at least that's what I think I heard today generally, but that might get you a better response, more specific response that you could work with a little bit better. But
okay, great, thank you. Natalie?
You're welcome.
Listening to Jeff talk about what we're asking for, I think we're missing the component of why people are staying and the folks that are thriving here. Like why are you staying? I think is also a really important question. So I think that's where it gets really difficult to move fast. Like that if we really are trying to work organization wide, that's a big ask. And I think, again, to make an informed decision, it's like, why are you here? Why do you come to work every day? Why do you like your particular team? And so I don't know how to move forward with just going after and listening to the folks that weren't successful here. I like to also know from the folks that are. So I just think this is going to be really, anyway, I don't, that's all I have to say.
That's interesting. Natalie, you reminded me of one of the police officers we had a long time ago, Jerry Johnson. I asked him one time, because he'd been with the department for a long time. He says, what do you like best about Manitou? And he says, I like the fishing. And I said, what do you mean? He says, all my fishing buddies live in Manitou. He says, we go fishing together. We don't fish here. We go up to 11 Mile, but he was part of the community. It really was. I mean, that was significant. He says, I love this place. I'm part of it. He says, I'm a cop, but I like have family here. And so the point you make about why people stay here, Jerry was a good example, and there are other people certainly who do that. Well, Council, I'm wondering, I'm kind of thinking about Jeff's advice as being good. Maybe if you want, I'll try to hash out just some ideas as to what we want and run it by you and say, okay, this is what we really want. We're kind of drilling down towards a work product, and we'll take that back to, I could take it back to these four people. I mean, these four firms, we got responses back from two, and say, this is what we're looking at more closely. That comes to mind. I'm open to suggestion. Judith?
I promise this is the last time I will speak on this issue. Here's what I want to know. I want to know, number one, do we have a problem? And then number two, I want to know, what is it? And then number three, I want to know, What are we going to do about it? And I really respect Mayor Pro Tem Johnson's, comment about finding out what people are saying. And I think that is part of the culture piece. And I think that is important. And, but I think if we're going to spend our dollars wisely and deal with the problem that was, that has been presented to us, those are the questions I'd want to ask. Do we have a problem? What is it? And, and what's the data to support that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Council, this was really an informational.
Are you okay with that, John?
I'd
Going
be,
back and seeing if you could ask those, basically those 3 questions, or the way Jeff Parker explained
yeah,
it, I thought was also right on. Are you okay with?
yeah, I'd be okay with doing that and drill
Ask
down, bring it
those-
back to council. And then when we're kind of, more focused, we'll
Mhm.
run it past somebody who might be able to give us some help. Michelle?
As we go with both what Jeff and Natalie recommended, can we also please see the staff that has left us, who they reported to when they were with us? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Well, council, I guess we were able to get a little focus on this, and we'll move forward unless anybody has any objection. I'll go ahead and put some ideas together, and council can comment on them, and we'll run it past some consultant and see what their proposals come back as. Okay, thank you. Well, let's move on then. Thank you, Jeff. That was helpful. Receive or act on council correspondence. Does anybody have anything? Nancy?
Yeah, at the URA board meeting, Elector Johnson hit the ground running as the new executive director. She's been meeting with quite a few folks, to include John Block from Paragon and his son, as well as the Park Row owners, to talk to them about what possibilities are. One thing, I had given them all a copy of the annual report this morning, and they asked if at least their board could be included in the annual report along with the other boards in the city. So, and Elector would also like to do a walk of the URA with council members. So you can expect to hear from her to set up a time, and hopefully you'll be able to do that with her. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, if not, let's hear the city administrator's report.
Yeah, I have several things. I think you got the message about we have been designated as a Tree USA again. So I think everybody received that. Burns Road, we finally got that completed and we now own those properties, so they're under our name. The other properties, we're still working on some issues that have been donated to us, so we haven't gotten those completed. I did attend a federal funding meeting last week just to talk a little bit, to hear more about the federal funding and what is coming down. And really, I did not learn much, except nobody really knows what's happening with federal funding as we move forward. The congressional direct funding that we were going to get 500,000 for the water meters, it looks like we're not going to get it. They, of course, don't know yet. So they did send me a link and want me to reapply, which I have to have done in the next week and a half. So I will have that submitted. The paving for Manitou Avenue with the water main break is going to be about $88,000. And we have to do that because that was our water main. CDOT won't cover that. So we'll have to use our PPRTA money, which is what we'll use for that. And we did receive the dump truck this week that you guys allowed us to buy. So we received that. The black backflow testing is completed, and we hope that this will be the first year in several years that we'll meet all the deadlines and get that reported accordingly. The grant program from the fire department, they're hoping to have that rolled out the 1st of April. So hopefully you'll be getting more information about that. We did submit a $250,000 grant. I submitted it Saturday night before I left to assist with the creek walk that's coming in, the 250. Karen Rowe helped us write that. So we should hear that in the next month or so if we get it, and that would be great. It's a CDOT funding. that we applied for. So it's a small economic resilience grant. So we requested $250,000. Tomorrow I'm going to present at DOLA for the funding to help pay for half of the water tank, the rehabilitation of the water tank. As I mentioned, DOLA's money has been cut pretty substantially to help fund the state deficit. So we'll see where that ends up. And then the city garden out here, we have awarded a contract to Mary Ellen and to Becky Elder and make it a bioswale, which is really what it is. So we'll be working on that over the next month and a half or so. And I believe that's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Natalie, please.
Sure. For the fire mitigation grants, I'm wondering if we should have some kind of a community information meeting on that to maybe answer questions. I think folks will be really interested in utilizing that program.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We'll be doing a lot of press release and we'll be doing that. And I'll bring that up to the fire department too, if they can do a community meeting to just roll it out and to provide all the information and how to apply.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. In that case, our last item for this evening is executive session. So I'll read the item and I'll ask for a motion to go into executive session. On the assumption that we'll do so, we'll take a break till about 7:30, give staff a chance to make the appropriate modifications and so forth. Anyway, this is an executive session to determine positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators pursuant to Section 5.1D of the Manitou Springs Municipal Charter concerning the reimbursement agreement between the city and the Cog Railway. So I'd seek a motion, please.
So moved.
Can we have a motion? We have a second? Let's vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, great. Thank you. So let's take a break and then come back